Welcome to today's episode. I am so delighted to introduce you to Lee Barnes. And let me pull up his illustrious bio. He has a PhD in environmental horticulture. He is a long-term dowsing intuition educator, local Appalachian chapter leader, that's chapter of the American Society of Dowsers, and professional water well dowser in the crystalline bedrock of the southern Appalachian Highlands near Asheville, North Carolina. Oh, I hear the pride
I love my
in that sentence. Oh, I can just imagine how good the water is. He has over 25 years of experience dowsing water wells, sacred sites in the U.S. and United Kingdom, geopathic energies, and map dowsing for moving hurricanes, all of which I want to ask you about. Lee was honored by ASD as the 2012 Educator of the Year and 2019 Dowser of the Year. And as someone who's seen Lee in action teaching, he is a generous and wonderful teacher. He just so clearly is coming from a service and a deep, deep well of knowledge. Ha ha, pun intended. And Lee is a lifetime member of the American Society of Dowsers, as well as the British Society of Dowsers, and studies dowsing intuition a lot. I love that. I love that last sentence. He'll be joining us at conference this year, and you can learn more about him at AppalachianDowsers.org. Welcome, Lee.
Thank you. Thank you.
I can take off my readers now. Oh, no,
I have to
because
keep
I look at
mine
my notes.
on.
Well, oh my goodness. So I would love to start kind of in the beginning. Now, your PhD is in horticulture. How, were you, I guess, what were your original career goals? How did you find dowsing? How did dowsing find you? How did it all start?
My PhD was environmental horticulture, and I actually work with 3 endangered species plants in North Florida. They were being dug in the wild, and we were trying to reproduce them. And it was a totally uneconomic crop. So my whole life, I haven't worked, to make big bucks, but I wanted to move up to the mountains. So I did that 33 years ago, and I discovered dowsing, bioregionalism, and permaculture all at the same time.
Oh, I got chills when you said that, because that was going to be one of my questions. I know you are a big, your bio didn't mention this, but you're a big, sustainable agriculture guy. You're a seed saver. You teach people about seed saving. Okay, so you learned about it all at the same time. This fascinates me. Tell me more about that.
I worked with a organization called Katua Journal, which was an environmental magazine. I think that opened me up to developing a sense of place and respect to place. So I've been passionate about sharing that sense. I had a permaculture class, and gosh, I've ended up forming a nonprofit, and we've raised over $250,000 in the last 10 years to promote permaculture education, demonstration, and networking. And then I've been doing seed saving of heirloom varieties for somewhere 28, 29 years with several organizations. So I'm passionate about saving seeds. But dowsing really captures my heart because it's so Well, one, we all can do it. And I'm using the term dowsing intuition so that people don't think that water dowsing is the only use for what the definition of dowsing. If anybody has heard the definition, they would think, an old man in a black bag walking the fields, and that's me now. So I made that. But
good job.
But water dowsing is just the very beginning of tapping in a system to access your dowsing intuition. Mm-hmm. And I noticed on one of your videos, you said you didn't like the term higher self. I don't either. I use my super self or super consciousness, and it's all continuum, and it's all a matter of paying attention. So the steps, the elevator speech is, learn to ask a better question. A clear question is going to give you a better answer. Learn how to sense it in your body. I mean, we use various tools, but after a while, you want to feel it in your body. For example, people may know a pendulum. Pendulums go back probably 3,000 or 4,000 years. And I can feel that in my chest. I no longer have to swing this. I cook. I believe everything. Okay. I've spent a year of my life in the woods, and I realize that everything is animated and interconnected. So I co-create with my tools. So I ask them, show me the easiest way to indicate. I'm giving a voice to my muscles, basically. Show me a yes, and I happen to get a counterclockwise direction, and a lot of the books say, well, it's supposed to be clockwise. Well, not for my body. And then show me a different movement for a no, and I got a clockwise. And then after doing it for about 10 years, I realized, show me a vaguely worded question or question not answerable at this time. And I get this diagonal swing. So I can feel that all in my body. So people say, well, pull out your tools and ask a question. I don't need to do that anymore. I trust. And the third step is learning to allow this to come through and not having a hidden agenda and trust the results you get. I've dowsed 500 wells, and somebody's spending anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 on a well. And if you mentioned crystalline bedrock, we don't have true aquifers up in the mountains, and people are also building up on the high ridges where it's a little more difficult to get water, more expensive anyway.
Yeah.
And I think what I'm doing, and I'm kind of the analytical one on this, I think we can sense electromagnetic fields. I've seen a demonstration where a small pocket compass, 50 people tested in a lab, could detect the magnetic field that turns that little needle. Well, a good dowser, 1,000th. So, dowsing is tuning in, a very acute awareness. It kind of reminds me of the movie, the Bourne Identities, where this spy is walking around and he knows which car, well, he's memorized the license tags just indirectly, and he knows which car is more likely to have a gun in it. Now, how do you do that? Well, real sensitive. And you as a dancer, I noticed you were talking about you could sense the energy in a room. And I dowse people's, I've given little general dowsing classes to literally 1,000. And I've had like 5 or 6 people who couldn't get it. And I think they were blocking themselves. So I try to teach that, this is the way I do it, but learn with your own system. I did a talk recently for the American Society of Dowsers, and I pulled up a chart of like 47 different divination techniques. And to me, as long as you're consistent with whatever you're doing, you're going to get better answers and get better with time. So I will actually have students, I give them I don't have one right in front of me, a nut on a string, because I think that's just funny. I used to do it on dental floss, but, I've moved up. And to stand over flowing water in a water pipe so they see it with their other senses, but they learn to feel it. And they've got a response. Most people, the rods will cross in or out. It's kind of like belly buttons, It doesn't matter as long as you're consistent with it. I show them that.
Some people are outies.
Right. Yeah. I show them that I like to know which direction the water's going. So if I have a sense of flow, my rods will point in the direction. And that's important if you're locating a well near a septic field or something where you want to protect a little bit better. And I do get a handful of people that point upstream. And I'm intrigued by that because I think they're thinking the source of the water versus where it's going.
They're thinking about the source. That's really fascinating. So this leads me to, oh my gosh, you just said so many things right there. So how, just to reel it back, how do you define dowsing then? Is it accessing this dowsing intuition?
I think so, and I'm using the term dowsing intuition so that people kind of put the two together to further their understanding of it. I keep a very messy office, but if I can't find something, I get in a relaxed, intuitive state, and I'll walk over and pick up, and there it is. Yeah. So was I remembering, where it was at? or was I sensing the vibration and was attracted to it? My work with my passion with sacred sites is that there are energy lines that connect these. And I can actually show you how to simply dowse an energy line around a tree or between trees. When I stand people over water, their energy fields contract. And I think they're trying to maintain, I guess a fancy term, the homeostasis, their energy field. And then I show them how I can trick them by pulling mine in completely. I call it going invisible. If I'm around animals that don't know me, so I'm less threatening, I'll pull my energy in. And if you can tell, I can probably fill a room, auditorium with energy if I'm trying to reach that back row. So that's just fun things to play with.
Very much so. What, if any, tools do you use? I definitely want to talk about sacred sites, but let's stick with wells just for a moment. What tools do you use, or do you use tools anymore when you're?
I do. I use the basic what are known as L rods, angle rods, the letter L, because I can have them point in a direction. I can have them cross at the greatest flow, and it's convenient in a light wind. But I can't tell you the number of sites I've been to where I laid my pack down, walk around, and right where I laid my pack down, it was the best site.
That's where it was. That's
and Leroy Bull has a famous story where he would send his daughter out to mark a site, and she'd got a car, run out and put a stake in and leave, and I go, wait, well, you didn't do anything. Well, the work had been done from a distance. And I am learning that we have this capability to resonate with anything in the universe. And remote viewing would be what some people think. Distant dowsing is a higher level because not only can you sense a place and what's going on, you can ask questions about it. So, and the very highest levels I see is where you make a change at a distance. And this is just generally called energy work because you don't want the AMA to, you don't want to diagnose or heal unless you have a license or they'll sue you. So, but people have been doing that for thousands of years. It's fun to dowse the sex of a baby that's going to be born. That's gone back thousands of years. It's the same idea with sexing chicken eggs. So you take the roosters away but there's no limit to dowsing except your ability to ask an absolutely clear question. And you can actually, just by looking up, you shift into alpha. So you see a lot of, medieval art where people are looking to the heavens. Well, they're doing a dowsing consciousness shift. And I did send you a chart that shows that dowsers are using all the major brainwave patterns simultaneously in both hemispheres.
Let me see if I can bring it on the screen, what you're talking about, because this is really fascinating. And we'll describe it for folks who might be listening.
Well, it makes the science in me that there is a science to dowsing because you're accessing everything we have trillions of neurons. We have more things like that than the largest supercomputer. Anyway, just to simplify it, the first 3-4 is the daily rhythms that most people go through, from conscious mind to alpha to deeper sleep, delta and theta. And on the far my right, there's 3 columns. 2 of them are meditators, and they kick out in the alpha. They're reaching out in those wavelengths. On the far right is what dowsers are in all those wavelengths simultaneously. So we are reaching out to our super consciousness, our super awareness, more than just normal thinking. So,
I got it.
AppalachianDowsers.org site, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, great. Perfect. Well, I'll share a link to it so people can look at it and see it. But it is really powerful to see represented that, even so, like normal waking versus the meditative state, and then getting into Zen meditation, lucid awareness. Those are like more expanded states, but that expert dowsers, high creative states, this is where it's like all the pistons are firing,
Your
right?
super
Basically.
self does not sleep. Its job is to, be aware all the time. And there's a new concept of the perceptive mind, which kind of says that consciousness is just a fraction of what's going on, and you need it to make decisions. But your background is doing its best to analyze everything and keep you alive. At one time it was real important to notice the tiger staring at you from the forest. And finding water is pretty handy too.
Right. Absolutely. That's a big survival tool. Well, and I think too, it's, just to your point, we do have such a level of awareness of our environment, even folks who say, oh, I'm not really intuitive, but we've all had that experience where you're like walking into a room and you get the heebie-jeebies, like,
oh yeah,
I'm going to get out of here. Or conversely, like to guide into talking about sacred sites, you walk into a space and you just immediately feel like elevated, right? As some of these sacred spots, immediately it shifts your energy. So
if I can twist your thought, you said something of the word not. And I would change that word to that I am getting better at doing X, Y, Z instead of I can't, I shouldn't. Does that make sense? We cancel ourselves with our language. So I'm a writer too, and I realized the power of a single word. And what was fascinating is, oh gosh, one of my first dowsing conventions, I've been to I think 4. I highly recommend that people go to them because learning this in person with someone is just incredible. But they had giant letters, runes, that, they were like 5 feet by size, and you could sense the energy fields around them and the corners. And it made me realize that sentences are energy patterns linked together.
Absolutely. When I talked about people who will say to themselves that they're not intuitives, and
that's it.
Is like, yeah. And and basically the idea is like, you are, absolutely, we all are, and you add that extra layer of, having that awareness with our language, because exactly, like,
if you tell yourself you're not worthy, then you'll limit yourself. Or somebody's a pain in the neck, you'll get a pain in the neck or wherever. So that's what I mean by impeccable language. The better you get at that, the smoother life is. And once again, I think everybody can do this. It's just developing a discipline and a trust over time. I look for something physical, something that you can confirm. So, I find water sites, I find septic fields, not as romantic, but also find grave sites. Anytime you dig a hole, even though you fill it back up, there's electromagnetic difference along the edges, and you can determine the sizes so you know whether it's a child or adult. And the best dowsers I know can tell you the race, sex, and age of the people in the ground. And how do they do that? Well, I know they can do it. With my water well dowsing, sensing electromagnetic field is the easiest part. So finding the center. Then I estimate how deep it is, because that's people's pocketbooks. So I'm thinking of number, and it's based on, like I say, I've done about 500 of these wells. Not all have been dug for various reasons. But I've got my memory, I have a memory and successes and failures, and I get a number. I do a bracketing I would imagine a carpenter would look at a board and say, well, that's more than 6 feet, but it's less than 10, it's 8.5. You write that down. You trust that. You don't ask your super self multiple times, because it has the temper tantrums of a 5-year-old. If you ask too many times, and it will play with you. And then I do the same thing for gallons per minute, recoverable at the surface. So is it more than 5? Yes. More than 6? Yes. More than 7? No. And I bracket it down and I write it down. I don't go back and do it multiple times. Then one of the more difficult things is I'm estimating quality of the water. I want to make sure it doesn't have iron or sulfur or a problem. And I use a scale from really 0 to 10, with 10 being good mountain water like you would get at 6,000 feet in a Fraser fir forest. And I get a number, I write that down. And the last number I get, all these are, super conscious, estimations. Mm-hmm. It's my best guess. I will look for casing depth. And casing pipe is what they put in 5 feet into solid rock to keep the well from falling in, and they grout it so surface water doesn't flow. So I'm estimating something, and it's up to the driller to decide when that rock is solid enough. So I'm estimating something in the future that someone else has an opinion of. I write it down and live by it. So
yeah. Well, and I love what you're saying, because just reiterating what you're saying of when you dowse, or when you tune into these answers, trust the answer that you're getting.
Yes, the first answer. Yeah.
Yeah, trust that first answer. It's like when you're at the restaurant and you're ordering off the menu, and it's always, and people are like, well, I'm not sure. And it always ends up being the first thing that their eyes looked at. It always, it's what they actually wanted, right? But I love too that you're clarifying that, locating a well, it's not just, I found water, right?
Right.
You have to ask all the questions. Is it potable? Is it,
is it cost effective for the owner and the
right.
driller? I have a whole litany of questions I ask. And
well, Leroy, he tells that story in his episode as well about his daughter, and he got some pushback from some of the farmers, some of the guys out there who were like, I'm not gonna, because of course his daughter was like a teenager at the time as well, right? So she's just driving up in a little teeny bopper car and planting her a little stake in the ground, and they're just like, who is this child? No, I'm not going to pay you money for the well. And so he said, well, look, dig, and if there's no water there, I will cover your fees. And you have a very similar guarantee of right? I seem to remember I was looking
I do not, I return my fee if they don't get water. Yeah. And I realize that I'm taking a risk because not every driller drills straight. But, I just do word of mouth. I don't advertise. I'm slowing down now that I'm getting older. I can't, cross country like I used to. But I think over time I'm doing it for the earth. Yeah. I don't want the earth. If you've ever watched a water well going in, it's violent. The ground shakes. So Marty Kane, you should interview her sometime, because she's just a pixie on this. But she'll ask the water beings, are they willing and able to provide water to this borehole? Yes. And that's another level. And she says, yes, they're usually willing, but sometimes she has to do a little prayer or something to help them. But that's just a different level of consciousness. This is my fancy $50 dowsing rod. I can do the same thing with a bent surveyor's flag, but people were willing to pay me more when they see a fancy tool. So you got to have a little bravado here.
Right. They notice these things, I love that. I'm delighted that you're teaching water dowsing at the conference this year. Tell us more take us into the world of sacred sites. I'm sorry. I was gonna just hop back. I would love to interview Marty, and in fact, I'm going to be interviewing Adela Toy as well, and she is also, communicating and talking to people about how to communicate with the elementals, the nature beings, and I find it really adds a whole other dimension to working with the earth. Like you said, it's not just about finding and drilling a well. Sandy Isgro talked about this in her conversation. We're working with the earth. We are drawing, as dowsers, we're drawing from knowledge that we share with the earth because we are part of the earth. And so for her, a big part of it is always do I have permission? Is this the appropriate, is that a part of your process as well?
It is. With dowsing, you can stick your nose into somebody else's business. And it's like, if I'm going to help someone estimate the sex of their baby, I definitely should ask permission of the mother. and I think I should ask permission of the baby. I mean,
Absolutely.
so for me, the standard permission is can I, may I, should I? And I don't like those words. So for me, am I able to dowse this subject accurately at this time? That's my first question. May I? Do I have permission from the person, place, thing, or universe, whatever? Who am I asking permission from? Whoever my super awareness reaches out to. It's my simple answer to that. And then lastly, just like I say, relax and allow. There was another thought in there. Okay, the last question is, it's a little bit different than the first one. Is now an appropriate time to ask this question?
Right.
Because the answer may not be available. You mentioned drinking water. That's probably the one caveat, that you need to be well hydrated when you're dowsing. And not distracted. And I don't like to dowse when it's raining and water is dripping off my nose, because I'm just not as attentive. So, and I don't go out in freezing weather anymore. It's got to warm up. And when I go into the site, I'm entering it with a level of reverence that I'm being allowed there. I'm going to try to help. Spending a year in the woods, you realize that things are going on all around you, and you pay attention to it because you hear a snap in the twig. You wonder, is it just falling from the tree, or is it a bear? So
tell me about this year in the woods. Were you alone? Where were you? What sparked it?
Yeah, I've done 4,500 miles of backpacking, which was a year, and part of it I did the Appalachian Trail over like 4 summers. So at the most, I was out in the woods, 2 months at a time, mostly by myself. And you just pay attention at a higher level when you're by yourself. And you're reading the landscape. I think I figured I've done somewhere about 6 million steps with a backpack. And you're always looking where that next foot goes, because it may be a root, it may be a rocky rock. I call them laughing rocks. They just... I see them now, before I step on them. I've paid attention because I have fallen before. So, but it's just, once again, this is, how we, evolved as a species was, paying attention. And I think native cultures around the world are very respectful of the world that gives them life. That's kind of how I see it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I have done treasure hunting, but never found anything. But finding water, what better treasure? I mean, water is better, worth more than gold, in my opinion.
Water is life. Yeah.
So,
water is life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. Oh, cool. So I have experienced that. Like, it's when we go into, it makes me understand, why people will do like silent meditation retreats and stuff like that. We go into a different vibe when it's just us alone. You were reminding me, because I found myself.
And it's the brain waves too. I think they're definitely shifting. But it is
just
different.
Notice all the details.
It's the same reality, but it's different.
Yeah.
It's more real.
It's like, yeah, so well put. It's more real. It's more nuanced. It's richer. I was traveling. I was supposed to meet friends, and this was like before the days of cell phones. So we missed each other, and I was like, well, that's it. I guess I'm exploring Prague by myself. And it was the most magical weekend. And it was like, I didn't speak a word to anyone except to order my dinner or, get a place to stay. But it was...
You were in the flow.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, very much so. Oh, I was so in the flow and so being watched over by angels. It's not even funny, because of course it was perfectly safe and it was great. But tell me, I'm going to circle back again. So talk to me about sacred sites and dowsing for sacred sites. How does that work?
So, every place is sacred. But some places sense more sacred than others. And during my hiking, there were definitely places that I think were a Native American energy had set up. I've been by mounds and stone circles, and they're not just random. They're very specific in their orientation. And right after my first trip up to ASD's Vermont conference, probably 20 years ago, there was a group called NERA, the New England Antiquities Research Association, and they took us on a field trip. And we went to all these stone circles, and there was a platform that had a huge white quartz crystal in the end of it. And I dowsed the energy line, and I think it went to the next sacred site. And I've been to Ireland a couple times. There was one place on a foggy beach that was a 20-foot tall standing stone, and it dowsed in a certain direction. And I think it was kind of like a lighthouse, that people could pick up on that energy and be directed. So my experience in the southeast here, we have mounds, soil mounds. We do have some petroglyphs and some stone things, but I would, once again, I go to these sites with deep respect and permission of the beings and spirits of place. And I get what I call dowsable energy lines. Once again, on the Appalachian Dowsers, we have a glossary of terms, AppalachianDowsers.org, that we kind of stole from the British Dowsers, but that's a compliment, isn't it? And we added some, but it's a vocabulary, so we're all talking the same. And they call a dowsable energy line not a lay. A lay may be just an alignment. But if there's an energy with it, I don't know if it's electromagnetic or what, but dowsers can pick it up. And it's fascinating. I would get dowsable energy lines in the 4 directions here in the southeast, and I've been over the Mississippi and others. And I think somehow energy was imprinted on the site due to ceremony. And I know there's a group, once again, being in the woods, there's a group called the Mountain Stewards in North Georgia who are into what people call directional trees. These were built by the Native Americans to indicate a direction toward a stream crossing or a village or different things. And, they're all 170 years old or something, because that was before the removal. But this group brought a dowser out, and he found moving water under every one of these trees that he dowsed. I think it was a couple hundred. But that told me that, the first people were sensing the energies of place. And if you're going to build a lighthouse, why not put it, on where there's, high energy, if you catch my energy. Yeah. So it's, and there's no end to it.
It's so rich. Yeah, there's a gentleman, Freddie Silva, who's done a lot of work in this area too, and it's kind of like which came first, that high energy point of the Earth's energy lines meeting or the sacred site, and as you were talking about it, actually, what I really got,
you can dowse that.
it's like the download I got is it's really both. It's like
co-creative,
It's co-creative. It's the earth as well as, the sacred use, just in the same way that we can mark a spot, with an event, you know what I mean? It can shift the energy of that spot or that place.
Or sense where your car is in the parking lot.
Yeah. Without the little boop, boop, the little key thing.
I mean, once again, part of it is, I kind of remember where it was, but part of it is that relationship. If you can image something, it's kind of like a cell phone in that things will connect and you can get information about it. And once I started paying more attention to that, things just seem to go smoother. I'm driving down the road and something tells me, go this way.
Yeah.
I don't fight it. I do it. And it usually turns out to be interesting, or there's a, car accident farther up or something that, I've picked up. And once again, it's super awareness. And I don't understand quantum physics either, but we can connect with focus and system. So.
Absolutely. Absolutely. How do you find, let me take a look at my.
One other thing I'll mention that
Yeah.
some of the stone circles in England,
Mm.
they find that cows will knock fences down to get in them to give birth. So there's some sort of energy that is helping anesthetic or something.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, that's intriguing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a mountain in Hawaii on Oahu that is the birthing mountain. And that's where, and as you say that, I'm still learning about it myself, but it makes sense that there would be supportive energy from the earth, whether it's like kind of a pain relief. It could be as simple as pain relief. It could be just that, elevated
changing the brain
state.
waves, whatever.
Yeah, right. So that we're in more of that mode. That's powerful. That's really powerful. So we talked about, you mentioned map dowsing as well, which I think we kind of were grazing this even with what you were saying. Like if you can get an image in your head, you can tune into that. Is that kind of what you're doing when you're map dowsing as well?
I think so. Well, you interviewed Leroy Bull, and he was the teacher that helped me really get to trust map dowsing. Wonderful, man, wonderful man. And what I started doing, I live up in the mountains, but my parents at that time were down in the Piedmont of North Carolina. And whenever there was a hurricane in the general area, I would literally print out one of those little hurricane maps. And ultimately, I developed where I could take a pendulum and rub a finger up. I was looking for where is the eye wall of the hurricane going to hit land. Part of this, I'm a weather nut, so I've studied past histories. I know the approaching fronts will do this. It's like linebackers. I know they tend to go up bays. And so that's going on. But I've got the spaghetti maps. And on 5 hurricanes that I was concerned that was either going to hit me or my parents, I got within 10 miles of landfall 3 days before it hit.
Wow.
And then I was able to track it a couple other days within a 50-mile radius. So, I mean, we have a supercomputer up here, so it can be used. And once again, I write down, what I get. I don't question it. I don't try to analyze it. This is what the universe is, like I say, my super consciousness is handing me. So learn to trust it. Yeah, it's kept me out of trouble in the past. I'll mention one other thing. The last time I didn't pay attention to my intuition, I slid down a snowfield at 10,000 feet and should have been killed. I was on a 4-month backpacking trip, car camping across the country. We were gradually getting higher and higher during the elevations, and I didn't realize the snow was frozen at that point. It was ice. It wasn't snow. And I walked out on a snowbank, and I said, oh man, this looks like so much fun. I'm going to slide down and, do what I've been doing. And something told me, no, walk away. So I turned around and went back 4 or 5 steps, and then I went, oh no, it'll be fun. Well, I realized real quick that I was totally out of control. I was looking between my feet, and I saw a pile of rocks the size of Volkswagens, and somehow, and this is getting to that spirit range, I was moved over 40 feet and skid over the small rocks. Cut up a little bit, but I was alive. So that's one instance that I can't deny that something extraordinary, happened. And I've listened to my intuition since.
That's one way to just get it deeply ingrained. Yeah. Okay, we'll forget that one. We'll forget it. Wow. I'm going to circle back because I think somehow I asked you what, your first experience was. What was your first experience and how did it end up tying together with the...
Yeah, good question. Basically, I helped co-found the Southeastern Permaculture Gathering, which is an informal conference. And we had a professor come up, that was 31 years ago, come up from North Carolina State, and he showed us in a half an hour dowsing how to sense underground electrical lines and water. And he says, well, he requires all his students to learn dowsing before he will graduate them out of his class. But
Fantastic.
from that, I went, hey, this is going to help me understand the sacred sites maybe. And then I realized that a lot of the sacred sites are associated with water, with energy of flowing water. And so that's when I, started dowsing wells for friends. And when the first 3 came in successfully and I didn't charge, I went, well, maybe there's some right livelihood here. I've got some experience now.
Yeah.
And to keep me from feeling too guilty, I give a money-back guarantee. I can actually look down a borehole and see whether it's straight or not. You take a mirror with sunlight and you can see. And, the drillers that drill too fast are not straight. So I have a short list of drillers I prefer. And they believe in me. They want a reputation of being successful and not drilling super deep. So it's a good relationship. But there's only 2 or 3 that I work with that I prefer. The others that I badmouth them, they badmouth me,
It's a friendly relationship.
Yeah, well, it's expensive, so. And that's we've had classes. There's a great need to train water dowsers because it's going to be a lost art. And we've had classes where people are really good at it, getting independent depths that are the same, finding spots, but they don't want to get in it professionally because, somebody's betting $15,000 to $20,000 based on their experience. And it's kind of hairy.
Sure.
But you have to, once again, get over that and learn to trust. And it is, like I say, I'm doing, I think, to help the earth. Is now my higher guy. And once again, Marty Kane taught me to dowse the client to the effect of how much will I enjoy this experience on a scale of 1 to 10 or -10 to +10. So not only do we get yes and no's, we get qualities and quantities. So
that's great. Well, thank you for continuing that tradition of the water witching, dowsing for water. And I think it will not become a lost art because of teachers like you.
Well, I'm passionate about it, and I will continue to help empower people. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. So I'm holding out for that.
Absolutely. So as we bring this beautiful conversation to a close, what last pearls of wisdom, if there's like one takeaway that you'd love for people to have, what would it be?
We are all remarkable beings, and we can choose to connect or not connect. We can choose to be respectful or not, but that affects everything beyond that. And if you want to be healthy and spiritual, I think, learning to work with things instead of against things is the better way to go. So that's read everything you can about dowsing, go to dowsing conferences and see what other people are doing, and then go do it. There's nothing like, that hands-on experience. It's like you're dancing in a room, you feel the energies, and I think everybody can access if they try.
Absolutely. Oh, thank you so much, Lee. This was fantastic. And I'm excited to share all the resources that you talked about. Will be in the notes and all of that stuff. Thank you for joining me today.
Very good. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.